make way for the popular Chris Sims, co-host of Pro Football Talk Live, former NFL quarterback. He's got his quarterback list counting down to number 3, and we've got controversy at number 3, Chris. How dare you? You picked Aaron Rodgers as the third best quarterback in the NFL.
I know. It hurt my heart, as you know. I mean, I am the leader of the bandwagon fans for Aaron Rodgers. I unleashed my 1 and 2 today on Pro Football Talk, just so you know that. Patrick Mahomes 1, Russell Wilson 2, Aaron Rodgers 3. But Mike, Dan, just on that. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting confused with my host here. but just on that, with Aaron Rodgers, still awesome. We know that. This is the first time that I would say since about midway through 2010, at least in my book, where I go, ooh, he's not the best quarterback in the NFL anymore. Still really special. We know he's got a great arm, good decision maker, but I think with where we're at in his career, and then Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes, yes, I think they've surpassed Aaron Rodgers here in the past year for me, at least.
Well, I thought the controversy is that you had Rodgers up that high. It feels like, hey, slipping here. A lot of people are bailing on Aaron Rodgers here.
Well, for whatever reason, people like to bail on Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what it is. They expect him to just make the Super Bowl every year and carry the team. And, to me, hey, the support system has not been there for Aaron Rodgers. For me, there is no doubt he's a top 5 quarterback in football. I have a hard time really taking anybody seriously that would think okay, maybe if you wanted to put him at 6, all right. But if you're trying to tell me he's 10 or 11 or something like that, I would just go, I'm sorry. You need to come watch film with me and you need to reevaluate things. But no, I mean, we're still talking maybe other than Patrick Mahomes, the greatest arm in the sport. Okay, still unbelievably quick release, understands how to take care of the football. That was a 10-6 football team last year.
Yep.
That they were at 13-3 because of Aaron Rodgers. I don't think I talked to you during the season. I don't think either one of us were blown away by Green Bay, the team, during the regular season. We just knew they were a good team with a really special quarterback, and we thought, ooh, maybe that could be something. So, yeah, don't sleep on Aaron Rodgers.
All right, but give me the criteria of how you were ranking these quarterbacks.
Sure. I went from, I'm like a coach on the hot seat, right? And here's my pecking order for my top 40 quarterbacks, who I trust and think the best is on right on down the list here. So, yeah, it's not easy to do, but that was my criteria. It's about 2020. Has nothing to do about 2010, 2015, career accomplishments. It's a what have you done for me lately league, and I'm evaluating what I think the quarterbacks are going to be for this 2020 season.
All right, I got the Danettes who are yelling at each other. What's the problem here? You guys
We all have issues with Chris's list in different areas.
Okay.
Pick a guy.
McLovin, go first.
So when Drew Brees throws 40 touchdowns and 5 picks next year, he's still the 16th best quarterback in the NFL, if you're doing 2020?
Well, okay. Hey, all right, McLovin, okay, first off, don't get into me with all the stats crap all the time. Whoever plays quarterback for the Saints is going to have great stats. They went 5-0 with Teddy Bridgewater last year, okay? All right, so, and then the other thing I would tell to you, too, is, again, Drew Brees, really good, great. Yeah, okay, let's go through it. Oh, okay, one of the best receivers in football, one of the better tight ends in football, maybe the best offensive mind in the sport. Oh, definitely one of the 5 best offensive lines in the sport. And McLovin, if he was still a top 5 or top 10 quarterback, they wouldn't be pushing him out the door after this year. They'd be going, let's get a deal done and stay here longer. So not that they're pushing him out the door, but the writing's on the wall. You know what I'm trying to say. They're going to the Taysom Hill era. So Drew Brees still really awesome, certainly capable of winning a Super Bowl. But no, I don't think he's the type of talent like we've seen in the playoffs the last few years that when the offense isn't executing, he can't make a lot happen by himself. And that is big to me in evaluating quarterbacks.
Yes, McLovin.
Yeah, he could never throw for 71 yards in a game like Ryan Tannehill in the playoffs. He'd never be able to accomplish that feat.
What he couldn't accomplish the 2 touchdown passes he threw in the game to put them up 14-3. So how about that?
You don't think Drew Brees could have done that with like 9
No, I don't think Drew
box?
Brees. He can't throw the ball last 40 yards, guys. So the first touchdown pass, he can't even attempt to throw. The second throw was a power throw in the back left corner with people around him. So yes, Drew Brees is really good, but all I'm just saying, McLovin, you're taking the Saints offense and Sean Payton. I'm just talking about quarterback.
Yeah, we'll see how great those wide receivers in line are when Taysom Hill's the quarterback. That great offensive line,
we will.
Receiver.
We're going to see.
Okay, all right. Who's next up, Paulie?
All right, Chris. Russell Wilson, number 2. No. All right, let's go to who gives you a better chance to win next year? Number 9 on your list, Matt Stafford, or number 15 on your list, Tom Brady?
Well, I mean, okay. So, all right. So this is where it gets dicey. Listen, I understand. We're used to Tom Brady. He's awesome. I mean, yeah. I'm not going to argue with you if you think he's the greatest quarterback of all time. You put Tom Brady in Detroit, okay? It ain't going to look like Tom Brady. I'm just telling you. He can't do some of the things that Matthew Stafford can do. You put Matthew Stafford in New England last year, they're a better football team. I'm sorry. Tom Brady's still really good, obviously, can win the Super Bowl, no doubt about it. But they didn't win one game because of Tom Brady last year. Not one. They played through their defense, and then he just didn't screw games up. So, yes, I think right now there's no doubt in my mind that Matthew Stafford is a better player, can do more with less, and can do more with more. I don't like you guys, too. I'm not coming on with you guys anymore.
Okay. Who's next here? See, what do you have?
That's so funny. I thought that at 4 and 5 was interesting with Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson. What pushed Watson over the edge a little higher than Lamar Jackson?
I think the big thing is the polished passer department. That to me is still where Lamar Jackson has certainly room to grow. We saw him get a lot better from year 1 to year 2, but I think, in a broad statement, Lamar Jackson needs a certain type of offense of system around him right now. Deshaun Watson, I think, can play in any system and is a more polished passer than a Lamar Jackson at this point in his career, to where we've seen, again, the last 2 years in the playoffs, when the Ravens couldn't physically dominate a team up front and on the line of scrimmage, they had to rely on the pass game, and Lamar's not there yet to be like, oh, okay, hey guys, the run game's not working. Jump on my back. I'll throw it 40 times and we'll win the game. I don't think he's at that level yet, as special as he is, but he's certainly gotten better, and he could be a guy that could be number 1, 2, 3, or 4 next year.
Yes, Todd.
I wouldn't kill you over it, but why 6 and 7? Why Wentz over Matt Ryan and not Ryan ahead of Wentz? And how does someone that doesn't even have a team yet make the top 10 in Cam Newton?
Well, yeah, that was probably first off with Cam Newton, was one of the hardest ones. Now, listen, he kind of got screwed over by his old team as far as when they let him go and all the chairs were filled for starting quarterback. So that's where he's been screwed over. And Cam Newton's the kind of guy that nobody's going to bring in as a backup quarterback because he's going to make your starter look not very good unless you're named like Watson, Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, or those guys. I mean, if you bring him into certain teams, the player's going to go in the locker room after the day's over and practice sometimes and be like, did you see our backup? Did you see Cam Newton? He was throwing lasers everywhere. And it's going to cause a division within the team. So he's stuck in a tough spot, not because of where he's at, but because of the way Carolina handled the situation. Now to 6 and 7, hey, I'm a big Matt Ryan fan. I don't think he gets enough credit. As you can tell, though, I'm a big Carson Wentz fan. Really, Carson Wentz, one of the only things I look at as a weakness to him is maybe protecting his body a little bit. And, of course, hey, yeah, it sounds like he could be a better leader and teammate in the locker room. But, man, Fritzy, who was his running back at the end of the year last year? Who was his top receiver? Come on, Fritzy. Who are they? Who are they, Fritzy?
All right.
He only knows the Bronco roster. That's it.
Exactly. So I'm just saying most people can't even name the people that were on the offense with Carson Wentz last year, and yet they went to the playoffs because he was maybe arguably one of the greatest one-man shows in football last year. So that's why I give him the advantage there.
Yes, Todd.
Was Wilbert Montgomery and Harold Carmichael?
That's the guy.
Wasn't there like a Keith Krepfle tight end?
He's Chris Sims, co-host of Pro Football Talk. Where would Colin Kaepernick be on this list?
Oh, that's a good question. Now, I'll say this. When he was getting blackballed by the NFL and all that, he certainly was right around the top half of football as a starting quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. right? Like the talent of Colin Kaepernick is superstar, top 5, top 10 talent. Right now, I couldn't find it in my heart to put him in the top 40 just from the standpoint of he hasn't played football in 3 years. And as you guys know, and as bad at athletes as all the Danettes are, not Dan, you're a great athlete.
Absolutely.
But as you know, when you take a long time off from any sport, it's not easy to come back and be good at it. Even if you're playing pickup basketball, let alone quarterback where you can't practice it, you can't emulate any of the things that go on. So
would you put him over Case Keenum? If I said you're on the hot seat, you're on the hot seat.
Not the second.
Okay.
Nope, not the second.
Mitchell Trubisky?
No.
Okay.
Do I think he has a higher end and like a higher ceiling? Certainly, but I can't say that I can feel that with confidence with a guy that hasn't had offense, defense alignment, and had to make decisions and play the game in so long. So, like, he should be on a team, Dan. I'll say that for sure. And with the new practice rules, practice team rules and all those things, I think a team is stupid to not bring him on there and just go, hey, let's let him have a year here, develop, see what he's got. He's got big time talent. Maybe he's our awesome backup next year. That's what you should do with Colin Kaepernick.
The Hall of Fame game canceled. We keep saying, we have been saying, the NFL has time. They can look at all these other leagues. The NFL doesn't have time, Chris.
No.
What kind of preseason adjustments do you think we're looking at here?
I mean, I don't know what to expect, because, we're in a tough spot. You look at where we are as a country right now and where COVID-19 is going, and, it's scary in some states still. So, I was more optimistic about us playing games and having a full season, I feel like a month ago, than I feel right now. I don't know how you feel about it, but, I don't know what to say.
Do you think it starts on time?
Right now, in my heart of hearts, no, because I think that we're going to get into like the second week of training camp, and you're going to have a few teams that have like multiple players on their team, just like we're seeing in college, that COVID-19 is starting to spread through the team. And then what are they going to do? So that's to me where it's concerning. I don't see how you can possibly say or think you don't think there'll be an outbreak of some sort on these teams throughout August. So right now I don't feel good about that.
If you're the commissioner, do you punish the Buccaneers and Seahawks because they've been holding workouts?
No, I don't. First off, I don't think many NFL players really care about COVID-19. I think they respect it, and they don't want any of their family members or people to get sick like that. But I can just tell you, if you take me back into 28-year-old Chris Sims when I was playing football, I'd be like, screw COVID-19. I'm okay. I want to play football this year. And I think most players are like that, let alone listen, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, they care about people. I know that. These are good people. But they're also going, hey, as far as I know right now, I'm going to be expected to perform and be the man here in a few weeks. So I need to practice and I need to get better. And they're kind of, weighing that out. And
I get why Brady's doing it, because Brady, I don't know how much pressure that the outside is putting on him, but he's putting it on himself. He's got to come in and hit the ground running with this team.
Right.
It's not like he's still in New England. He's got a whole new team, offense, head coach, offensive coordinator, all of that. I get why he's doing it. I just didn't know if the NFL is going to look at this and say, I can't have you guys, getting together like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's nice of them to say, but, again, it's where we are in this country right now. How can you tell certain people that when the rules in some states don't apply the same or whatever it may be? If I'm a quarterback who's sitting there trying to listen to the NFL and the NFLPA and listen to the rules of my state, and then I see a guy like Tom Brady or Russell Wilson throwing footballs and getting better, I'm sitting at home going, okay, screw it. I need to get out there and start getting better. Hey, wide receivers, running backs, let's go. We got to practice. And, most quarterbacks are such type A OCD personalities. They're stressing about training camp right now. I need to throw more. I need to get better at this. I need to do that. And it's hard to just sit home and think oh, I'm going to have a pass in my backyard and I'm going to get better.
It's good to talk to you, Chris. Are you happy you did your quarterback rankings?
I love doing it. I'm happy it's over. Okay, I'm sick of defending myself.
At one point,
and I
you
didn't know I
said,
was going to go through the
I
jury of executioners here.
I don't like you guys. Wow. What a tough guy. I don't like you guys. Thank you, Chris. Good to talk to you.
Good talking to you too. Be good. See you guys. Peace out.
Chris Sims, co-host of Pro Football Talk.
I don't like any of you guys.
He's soft. He's soft.
That's funny, man.
She's the host of the NBA Finals on ABC and, of course, The Jump on the Mothership. She's Rachel Nichols joining us on the program. Good morning, Rachel. How's morale?
Good morning, Dan Patrick. Well, what's the day, right? Is it Thursday? Are we good on Thursday?
Yeah.
It changes every few hours.
But it doesn't feel good to me. And I hate to be negative, but I'm just trying to be realistic here. Where do you stand on
which part, Dan? The NBA, the world at large, our future as a planet? I mean, you could be talking about a lot of things.
How about we'll stick with the NBA? How optimistic are you that this goes off without a hitch?
I think there's going to be hitches. That's the definition of 2020. But do I think it's going to come off? Yeah, I do. I think it will. I think they can expect positive tests. They're already starting to show them. They had players start reporting this week and getting tested, and they expected a baseline of 5 to 10% of positive tests. But I do think that they have a pretty good plan of these layering within a bubble that's not actually a bubble as a way of trying to prevent people from getting sick in any kind of large number. The doomsday scenario for them, a lot of people say, oh, what if it rips through one team and that team has to drop out? That would be bad, but that is not, to me, the doomsday scenario. The doomsday scenario is that if someone gets seriously ill or dies, I mean, that will be a tragedy at personal level and, of course, something that would be part of the NBA's legacy forever. So they are appropriately terrified of that. That is why you are seeing some of the back and forth between some of the older coaches in the league and the rules about whether guys are allowed to come or not. Some pushback on whether what their rules are in place are legal or not. But that is all from the baseline fear of the worst thing that can happen is that somebody dies on our watch. And I understand that.
I also look at this, from the competitive standpoint of who is going to have an advantage, maybe a little bit more of an advantage than we thought, or maybe a disadvantage because no home court advantage for the Lakers and the Bucks. So that's a big deal. It feels like maybe a team can steal. I know maybe not the title, but they can certainly steal a series or two here. Do you give me, handicap who you like, and then is there a surprise team in the East and the West?
I think there will be at least one surprise team in one of the conference finals. And I absolutely think you're right that there are so many unknown elements here. We talk about the 99 lockout season where they played the shortened season and the number 8 seeded Knicks got to the finals against the Spurs and actually played part of those finals without, they didn't play with Patrick Ewing. So I think when you have sort of one of these all bets are off times, anything could happen. I think teams with veterans are probably going to do a little bit better. I think they understand how to sort of tame the boredom and how to stick to their routines. Those are lifelong routines. They're not as distracted by other things. And a lot of it is going to be luck, which happens, by the way, in any NBA season. Ask the Golden State Warriors last year. We will possibly have important players missing key parts of series. And I think the NBA is hoping the fans start to treat, if someone is on a coronavirus quarantine, that it's kind of like getting injured for 2 weeks. We'll see if people actually feel that way. But I do think that, look, no one's excited about having an NBA championship in the middle of a pandemic. So I'm not looking for a silver lining here. But I will say what I love the most about sports in general is I don't know what's going to happen. I love big comic book movies. It's one of my favorite things. But when I go see an Avengers movie, I know the Avengers are going to win. Like that is I'm entertained when I go see a movie with The Rock. I know The Rock is going to win. No matter what happens with all the explosions, the Fast and the Furious guys are going to win. It's entertaining. But when I go see a sporting event, especially a big one where I don't know what's going to happen, I don't know which team is the Avengers. I don't know who the hero is. I don't know who the villain is. And I think that's going to be more true in this NBA than we've ever had before. And I think that is going to be a little bit exciting.
I like the Rockets. I'm either all in or not. Like, I think they're going to be either really good or they're going to, bow out quickly here. And I don't know why. It just feels like that system, that style, those athletes, and if you're maybe it comes down to who's in the best shape, like physically in the best shape, and doesn't have any positive tests here. I don't know what you think of the Rockets' chances.
Yeah, well, look, I think there are teams where this break, and by the way, this break is going to be longer than most off seasons, that this break is really going to help them. And the Rockets are one of them. And the fact that it's going to be a short regular season before we go into the playoffs is going to help the Rockets too. You have James Harden and PJ Tucker, who both look like they were running on fumes before the NBA shut down. And especially because the Rockets had decided to do this, they're calling it micro ball. It's like whatever's smaller than small ball, means that PJ Tucker was playing all those center minutes and really getting beat up by guys who are 5 or 6 inches taller than him. Well, he's just had 3 months rest.
Yeah.
James Harden, who has famously run out of gas in playoff series, has just had 3 months rest. And the idea that teams were going to see this micro ball, this new style that the Rockets adapted really just a few months before the shutdown happened, that teams aren't going to get that much film on them before they go into playoff series. So I think the Rockets it's a good pick. They're one of those teams that could end up really benefiting from this unusual situation. The Philadelphia 76ers are a team that are definitely going to at least get a better leg up than they would have, because Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid were hurt, right, when the shutdown happened. So the fact that those guys are going to be healthy and that Joel would have had, again, he's the guy who gets beat up through the season, will have had a few months off to rest. That can only help them. Now, of course, they were a team that was really dependent on their home court and their home record, and they're not going to have that. They're going to have like a couple guys in the stands doing golf claps for them. That's it.
Rachel Nichols, host of NBA Finals on ABC, The Jump on ESPN. The loss of Avery Bradley means what to the Lakers?
I think it's not insignificant. The playoffs are a slog, right? I mean, a lot of who wins the NBA championship is about what kind of depth you have. And they just took a pretty big hit to their depth. Avery Bradley started 44 games for the Lakers this year. And when he's the closest defender to a guy and how that guy is shooting, it's one of the stats that the NBA keeps now. He's actually the best in the league at defending the three. Guys' effective field goal percentages against him are the lowest in the league. Now, Alex Caruso is also on that list in the top 5, so that is of some solace. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope will also be able to fill in some minutes for them. They're talking about adding J.R. Smith to the roster, which, it's not going to be boring. If you're LeBron James and you're in the bubble with J.R. Smith, Rajon Rondo, Dion Waiters, JaVale McGee, I mean, the list goes on and on. This team, that's club quarantine right there.
I know that we loved, and I've been on this bandwagon, this kick, that it feels like if you don't like LeBron, you're going to attach an asterisk if he wins the title. And it's not, I think it's going to be harder for a team to win a title this year. It'll be harder for LeBron to win a title because everybody's back to, they're playing, it's a level playing field here, Rachel. And I'm like, no, to the contrary. He should get more credit if he's able to win another title here with the Lakers. Where do you stand on this?
I'm not a big fan of the asterisks anyway for game conditions. Now, talk to me about the Houston Astros, and I might have a different conversation. But when it talks to like what teams are doing on the court, I don't think we get to hand out asterisks, because every slog to a championship is its own journey. And if it was so easy, then the other 28 teams would have gotten to the NBA Finals. I mean, you can't say that, that was a cakewalk. Well, how come not everybody else did it? I think there are years you have injuries. I certainly would never ascribe an asterisk to this last year's Toronto Raptors team, but they did play a Warriors team in the finals that was very different than the Warriors teams that the Cleveland Cavaliers faced in the previous couple years. That doesn't mean that the Raptors didn't goddamn earn that title with the daring move Masai Ujiri made and getting Kawhi Leonard, and all the ways that Nick Nurse integrated that team, and the gutty performances of Kyle Lowry. I just don't think any of these teams get asterisks no matter who they're playing. And I certainly agree with you, Dan, that whoever wins this NBA championship, it is going to be like an episode of Survivor, because not only will you have to get through all of these crazy obstacles, it's going to be bizarre being on that campus, starting with 22 teams. And after 3 weeks, half the guys leave. And then it's halved again the next couple weeks. And then it's halved again. People are being sent off the island. And there you are, last man standing. It is going to be not just a physical, but a psychological warfare situation.
Times have changed at the mothership. I don't think I could get away with that language when I was back there doing SportsCenter. Man.
Well, we're a little more fast and loose here. What can I tell you?
ESPN Blue there is what I had. I don't know if you got caught up in any of the lists that come out in top 10 and top 5, but the thing that I brought up whenever these lists come out, who do you see that maybe is going to be a top 5 all-time player or top 10 all-time player? Steph Curry's already on the cusp. And then we're going to take out some of these older players. Durant's going to be a top 10 player of all time. Does Larry Bird come out of the top 10 at some point? Does Jerry West come out? Does Oscar? I'm curious, and you've had these discussions with Tracy McGrady and those guys, but your thoughts on players who are going to go in, and let's say 10 years from now, who's in the top 10, who's now out of the top 10?
I know that when you mentioned the network I work for, I mean, they make their bread and butter on those lists. So this is going to be an unpopular comment. I'm not a huge fan of those lists.
I'm right there with you.
So much, right? Depends on who you saw play. I did not watch Oscar Robertson play, Dan Patrick. So, I've been lucky enough to interview him. I've spent time with him, but I did not watch him play basketball. So when I am trying to make an educated comparison between him and some of the guys of today, I can't pretend that I could do that. And neither can anyone else who didn't watch him live, because we don't have the kind of footage that we have now. Yeah. And it drives me crazy. And then it also drives me crazy that people have these arguments about, well, so-and-so is a top 10 guy. And to your point, okay, well, who are you taking out? And so many people, when they love to have these arguments, don't want to have the second part of that argument about who they're taking out.
I know. It'll be like, such and such should have been in the Pro Bowl. I say, okay, who are you taking out? You can't have
who, right?
50 guys in there, but I think Durant will be a top 10 player. Steph Curry's going to be a top 10 player. The Greek Freak has a long way to go. I don't know if there's anybody else that I'm missing. Is Kawhi Leonard, if he wins a third title, could Kawhi go in just based off of that? When he's all said and done, could Kawhi Leonard be a top 10 player of all time?
He's someone I'm still not sure about just because of the injury factor. So I don't know how long his career is going to be. And I do think that will come into how we ultimately see him. But if he wins a title in 3 separate places on 3 separate teams, where he will clearly have been the engine. And by the way, that's no disrespect to Tim Duncan or anyone he won that first Spurs title with, but Kawhi was the MVP. So that doesn't mean that he was the most important player on that team. That goes to someone else. But you certainly can say that he had a significant hand in that title because he was the most valuable player. And then, of course, he was the MVP of that Raptors team. If he wins with the Clippers and he is the MVP of that team, that has to put him at least in the conversation, but just don't ask me which conversation or who I'd have to take out, because I don't do that.
And the Last Dance with Jordan, all it did is it was brilliant strategy. I thought it was
right.
It was incredible marketing by Jordan's people to say, hey, new generation that thinks LeBron or Steph or KD. This is a 10-part reminder. Ken Burns spent 9 episodes on the Civil War. We spent 10 on Michael Jordan 1 year here. He just reinforced no one will touch Jordan anytime while we're still alive.
Yes, and Ken Burns did not give either Abraham Lincoln or Robert E. Lee editing rights, which is basically what Michael Jordan got. So that is even another issue.
Well,
I mean, look, it wasn't a secret.
I know.
It's not a secret.
I love that Sam Smith said, I said, what'd you think of the documentary? He said, it was based on a true story.
But that's kind of what all of this is, right? Who gets to tell the story, right? The victors write the story, they write history, and that's true of all of this. All the tales we tell, everything. It's not just Michael Jordan in his documentary. Whoever has the loudest voice and whoever wins gets to tell it, and that's part of sports too. Is everyone sits around, back in my day, and the tails grow taller, and the baskets grow bigger, and all of that stuff, and the other guy says, he's not even telling it right. This is what happened. And we got to have 10 episodes of that during quarantine. I will say, and you know this, Dan, because you covered Michael Jordan, I was thrilled that people got to see a little up close of the Michael we know, where he would just do these drive-by assassinations of people in the context of someone. He's telling a story about someone totally different. I'm not even talking about the Isaiah Thomas with iPad and the laughing and all that. I'm talking about he's telling a story about something else. And just in the middle of conversation drops this wicked sort of rejoinder, flattening someone. And it was just like, I'm thinking in myself, there's a pandemic This dude, who probably thinks Michael Jordan doesn't even remember him, is sitting in his house with his wife and kids, and all of a sudden, Michael Jordan launches a grenade at him as he is strolling by, going somewhere else. And that is exactly the Michael Jordan that I spent time covering.
I just don't know this, Rachel, why he went from the flu to food poisoning.
The pizza food poisoning game that doesn't have the same ring to you? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's air sickness. I think it's altitude sickness. It's something like I joked sort of that Air Jordan can't get altitude sickness. Like it would be bad for the brand if that were the case. But
Dan, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
You are extremely famous. You might not be quite as famous as Michael Jordan in his prime, but a well-known man. When you stay at a hotel, do you check in under Dan Patrick?
I did not.
See? So do you really think, this is the part of the story I have a problem with, that Michael Jordan was in his hotel room under the name Michael Jordan and then ordered a pizza under the name Michael? Hi, this is Michael Jordan. It's the NBA Finals. I'm playing for the other team. I would love a pizza. Could you come deliver a pizza to Michael Jeffrey Jordan? Yeah, that's with an M and then a J. And right. Okay, great. And then he orders this pizza that everyone knows it's him, so they know to put something on it. And then the five guys show up at the door, but that's not something that's noted or remembered at the time. And by the way, you think that if there were five guys at the door, we wouldn't have five guys with book deals right now bragging about it? I poisoned Michael Jordan? Come on.
The five guys showing up to deliver the pizza and, stay with the flu. You had the flu.
That's it. That's all you got to do. It's all good. I did like when he said the line in the doc, I ate the whole pizza.
Well, he used to spit on it so nobody got to eat it. That's what Jordan would do. He'd spit on the pizza so nobody got to eat any of his pizza. If he got up to use the bathroom, he didn't want you eating any of his pizza. God, he's even competing about eating pizza. That's good stuff. Hey, I hope you're well. And are you bubble worthy? Are you going to the bubble?
We're still working out our bubble plan. I do have a question for you though before I go.
Okay.
I didn't know if you were getting any ideas from the NBA's protocol in Orlando, and I didn't know if any of the Danettes were going to have a snitch line on you, or how this was going to work, if you were going to take any tips and what that snitch line would be. I have questions.
You mean the Chris Paul line?
I am not saying that, Dan.
It's not.
I'm divorcing myself from this part of the conversation.
Well, then I can't answer your question if you're not answering my question, Rachel. It's quid pro quo. You know that. Hey,
Don't worry. I'll run the snitch line. I'll find out from the Danettes.
It's great to see you. And thanks for joining us. That's Rachel Nichols, host of NBA Finals on ABC, The Jump on ESPN. We saw yesterday PGA Tour taking some action. What's happened in the Greater Hartford Open, where you've had some players and caddies who have left the tournament, and that includes Webb Simpson, and his caddy is Paul Tesori, who joins us now on the program. Paul, thanks for joining us. So what happened? How long were you in Hartford, and when did you realize that your week was going to end a little sooner than you expected?
Yeah, Dan, thanks for having me on. Yeah, so flew up Monday afternoon. We were fortunate enough to win last week on the PGA Tour in Hilton Head, and came home for half a day and flew up. And Tuesday was a very, very normal day. As the day progressed, you started to hear some rumblings of some tests that had maybe come back not the way we had hoped. And the first one we had heard was Cameron Champ, a young 26-year-old on tour bomber who had tested positive. And so he was out of the tournament. And then as the day kind of progressed, we're standing on the putting green, and we had heard some other rumors about there was another positive test. And as we're sitting there, Webb gets a phone call and finds out someone in his family had tested positive for COVID-19. And so, there we are on the putting green. Obviously, we got a lot of people around. Immediately, we start going into a different mode as far as Weber and I, trying to decide, okay, what do I need to do instantly right now while we decide? So we left the putting green. We went and contacted the PGA Tour and started to have discussions with them. What's the protocol at this point going forward? Obviously, Webb had been exposed because he's been with his daughter during this significant amount of time. And it's impossible to know. Webb took a test Tuesday and Wednesday morning, negative on both of them, but he just felt like to protect the tournament and to make sure, more than anything, Webb's fifth in the world right now. He's leading the FedEx Cup. And the last thing you want, I think, is kind of one of those names taking, even though it's a small chance, taking a chance of infecting anybody else. So he made the decision to withdraw.
When did you get tested?
So we test starting this week. Well, we're tested every day when you come in. So I was tested Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning, me personally. Same with Weber, Tuesday and Wednesday. Generally, all you are is when you come in and you register. If that's on a Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, you're tested. And then you're only tested again when you're leaving the golf tournament to go on the charter, which would be a Saturday. I know Commissioner Monahan yesterday talked about we're going to change that a little bit. We're going to up it up at least one more test per week just to make sure that we keep everybody safe.
How is your job different with these new rules?
There's a lot of things that are different. The older we get, we're all creatures of habit. And so many things are just very natural to you, whether it's the handshake in golf is, really famous. We see it in basketball and other sports as well, but the handshake, that's obviously gone. But, the tour doesn't want us even fist bumping, just no contact if you can. And so I think that's the number one. As far as caddy player, it's tough. We try to stay 6 feet apart by keeping the golf bag in between us, but I read greens with Webb. So there's several occasions where I'm going to be inside that 6 foot zone, not for long periods of time, probably between 5 and 10 seconds. But, as far as that's concerned, he's been tested, I've been tested, we're clean, and we're not going outside that bubble at all during the week. And I think that's the big part that the tour is really battling right now is we, meaning caddies and players, we have to do our job. And it's getting better each week. The first week was not very good, and we got some pretty stern warnings from the tour. Guys, we have to do this well. We got the world watching us, but also we don't want to shut down. The second week, but now guys are starting to get a little scared. We've had 4 positive tests, and we've done 2,800 tests, so 4 is still a very, very low number, but guys are seeing the ramifications now of what's happening. Number 4 ranked player in the world, Brooke Koepka, has to go home. 5th ranked player in the world, Webb Simpson, has to go home. And, that might just be the start of something to scare the guys enough to make sure they stay safe.
He's Webb Simpson's caddy, Paul Tesori, who joins us on the program. Could players carry their own bags at some point here?
So I'm going to say no. I'm going to make fun of the players first as I do that. Definitely golf is a little cooler than it used to be at one point. We've got some pretty talented athletes playing golf now. I think this is the Tiger generation that we see. You got these kids coming out 6'3", 6'4", big broad shoulders. So the answer is they could. The answer from this guy staring at my nice lake here in the backyard that I have is I hope not, because Webb's great play, BJ's great play has paid for a lot of the stuff that I'm sitting at right now. So I hope not. I don't think it will come to that. Again, I always have to say if we do our job. Obviously, if Commissioner Monahan's sitting back and he's looking at week after week after week, if he's watching players and caddies a foot from each other, then he may be rushed to a decision that, I have to stop that for a little while. But the players would not do a great job, and they would have nobody to blame. If they hit a bad shot, the first thing they do would be like, there's nobody there. There's nobody there to blame. So,
I always love when they miss a putt, they always look at the caddy.
It's the same look every time. It's this one. But I do not think we will see that. And I got to be honest with you, Dan, I hope it doesn't come to that.
I was also wondering about now's the time to play against Tiger Woods because guys talk about the galleries that surround Tiger, and it's just something you can't prepare for. Like there's no gallery. How weird is it that there's no response, no reaction, no nothing, silent?
It's completely strange. At Hilton Head, I watched the number 1 player in the world, Rory McIlroy, make a 35-footer on his last hole of the day. And nothing. Not a clap from anybody. Not one clap from media, obviously, or anybody else around. And that was strange. And then coming down the stretch on Sunday at Hilton Head, I think one thing you saw is for the first time in my life, I've never seen so many different players make so many birdies down the stretch. There was 7 to 9 guys that were just pouring in putts from everywhere, hitting it close. And I do think the fans have a little bit to do with it. I talked to Webb. Webb said he felt the same. While I understand him meaning that, I do think there's a difference if you're coming down the last 3 holes with 50,000 people yelling and screaming versus no one. There has to be a little bit less of a physical response to that, and I think we saw that by the caliber of play down the stretch last week.
What's your favorite Tiger Woods story?
Oh, I got a bunch of them. I'm the Tiger Who guy that wore the stupid hat, and so he had a field day with me.
Wait, explain that. Explain that.
Yes, okay. So back in 2000, I'm working my 3rd event as a caddy. I'm working for VJ Singh, and VJ was the only guy that held back Tiger from winning the Grand Slam that year. VJ had won the Masters. Tiger won the next 3. Played in the President's Cup. We've played against Tiger every match. The United States team is blowing out the international team. I was with VJ on the international team. And so we get paired with Tiger the last day. Ball guys have some hats that say Tiger who. I think it's hilarious. VJ thinks it's hilarious. We wear it. We're on the 4th hole, and VJ has to 2-putt from 9 feet. And there's crickets. You hear nothing. And you look over there on the side, and Tiger's standing like this with his arms crossed and a scowl on his face. So VJ puts it down to it's hanging over the hole. I'm not embellishing the hanging over the hole. If we sit there long enough, it would have gone in. We hear crickets again. We look back over, and he's still got his arms crossed and the scowl. And Tiger loves this story now, so we're definitely not ruining any kind of inside scoop. And BJ looked at me and goes, I don't think he likes the hat. So as we tap it in from a millimeter away for par to win the hole to go 2 up, Tiger had not played well that week. Nota Begay had covered him all week. And on the next hole, Tiger turned a little more, hit about a 305-yard, 1-yard draw, 7 under on his last 13. And beat 2-1. And so my favorite part of the story is that Tiger and I had never really talked about it. I ended up working for Sean O'Hare, played a lot of practice rounds with him, but I was working for Weber in 2011, and Tiger was walking by, and I just turned to Weber. I was like, it's weird. I still feel like there's just that little something there with him and I, and I wish there wasn't. It was meant as a joke, not disrespect. And he walked by. I said, what's up, Tiger who? He said, what's up, 2-1? He walked about another 20 yards. He turned around with that big grin that we've gotten used to seeing. He laughed. But you have to think about that. He probably thought of 2-1 every time he saw me because there was no time lapse between when I said, what's up, Tiger who, and 2-1. And then this year at the President's Cup for picture day, he had everybody wear Paul who on the back and 2-1 to pay me back. So that's probably my favorite. I have got a ton of them. He's both helped me build nice houses and places to live, and he's also taken a lot out of my pocket at the same time. So I'm glad that we all as fans get to see the new Tiger Woods. I think we're seeing the Tiger Woods after obviously golf humbled him a little bit, but also with kids now. Kids change all of us. So it's great to see how joyful he is now on the golf course.
Most famous person you've either caddied for or played golf with?
So definitely President Clinton when he was in office. He gave the Milosevic indictment trial from the front gate at White Oak Plantation, and we played with him 5 straight days. It was some of the best times I had had in my entire life. You could give him crap, and he loved it. He loved the more junk you talked to him, the better he liked it. So that would be it. And then next would probably be playing with Michael Jordan. I was fortunate enough to play 9 holes with him and just ask a lot of stories. And he took a little money from me at the end of it, and that was the set of that.
Well, it feels like you have to give him money to get the stories, right? Because
that might be it.
Yeah,
that might be it.
Yeah, Paul, you paid for those stories, just so you know. Hey, before I let you go, I know that you have the Tesori Family Foundation, and it's certainly important and close to your heart, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just keep it brief, but yeah, our foundation, we started in 2010. We've been able to give back a little over $1.5 million to the local communities and a little bit throughout the country as well. We put on these all-star kids clinics for kids with special needs, 25 kids, one-on-one instruction. So check us out, TesoriFamilyFoundation.org, and any way you can help us, we welcome it.
Thanks for joining us on short notice, and our best to Webb, who, once he figured out putting again, he's amazing. Yes, and congrats really on the win at Hilton Head.
Dan, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Everybody stay safe.
That's Paul Tesori. He's Webb Simpson's caddy.